And so the key thing that I wanted to try to do with this book was try to encourage as many smokers as possible to give themselves the best possible chance whenever they try to stop. And it's a very simple formula, stopping smoking. Essentially, the number of ex-smokers you see in the population will be a product of the number who try and the proportion of those who succeed. It's not rocket science, but that's the equation. So if we're missing out on a massive opportunity by people not always using the best methods that are available. In my wildest dreams, if every smoker, even half the smokers in the population who are trying to stop were using what we know to be the most effective methods on average of stopping, then we would be seeing a lot more lives saved. Literally tens of thousands of lives a year. That's a hell of a lot of people. So what is the truth about stopping smoking? And this is my USP, if you like, of the book, is that it's all about honesty, as has been said. It's about being honest with smokers, but in a way that's not discouraging. Andy and I, over the years, have talked about writing a book for smokers, and you've got Alan Carr's easy way, and our book was going to be the difficult way. It's going to be really, don't even bother. There are no guarantees in any of this, but if you let the statistics work for you, you will succeed, and that's the key. So the truth about stopping smoking is there is no one way that's going to work for everyone. If you know ex-smokers, that there are many, many different paths. As Deborah has said, there's many different potential exits. But if everyone tried to use the same exit, it isn't going to work. So there's no one single way of doing it. There's lots of different ways. The second thing is this simple law, which is that if you keep trying and you use the best possible method, you give yourself the best possible chance of success. And it really is like rolling dice. The evidence on this is quite clear, that it doesn't matter how many times you've tried in the past. You may not have tried at all, or you may have tried once, or twice, or 15 times, or 50 times. The evidence is clear. The next time you try is just like rolling the dice again. The probability of success is not affected by the number of times you've tried in the past. So however discouraged you might be, the next one could be it. It could be a line, so keep trying. And then the third thing is that really, I'm not making this up to try to be nice to smokers. Every quit attempt really is a success, because the way that smoking works is that there are many different harmful effects of smoking, apart from the cost. But among those are ones in which you accumulate risk over time, and in sort of fixed in or set inside those are ones which give you an immediate risk, which if you then don't expose yourself to that risk, you get an immediate benefit. So even if you only stop for a short period of time, during that time you're experiencing a benefit. A classic example of this is heart attacks. In no small measure thanks to Deborah and colleagues and Andrew at the Department of Health, we got our smoke-free legislation in this country. People were a bit surprised at how quickly the death rates from heart attacks came down in non-smokers. And the reason for that is because just simply inhaling particulate matter increases your immediate risk of heart attack. This has been known in respiratory epidemiology for a long time, because we know that in cities where you have days of high pollution, you get an immediate rise in the risk of heart attack. And when I was at St George's Hospital Medical School, the respiratory epidemiologists were there had a model for it. Effectively, without going into the details, well, I'm going to going into the details, when you inhale particulate matter, your body produces macrophages to try to gobble up that particulate matter. When those macrophages break down, it produces a chemical called prothrombin, which increases the clotting capacity of the blood, and so for people in a certain state, it will tip them over the edge of a heart attack. So anyway, the point about it is literally really every quit attempt is a success. And it's not a question of whether you succeed or fail, it's a question of how long you succeed for. So, what is the smoke-free formula? As Susan has said, it is a book that tries to bring the science of stopping to smokers. When John Ellick, my agent, he wasn't my agent then, but he approached me with the idea for this book, and it really is his idea and brainchild. wasn't that keen, because I'd seen books out there. There's Alan Carr's book, there's Paul McKenna, Paul McKenna's book. There's books out there that promise the earth, and I was thinking, well, I can't compete with that. I'm not sure how interested people are in hearing about the science. But I've done a number of interviews over the years with journalists, and I know that if you can talk to people in a particular way, then they develop an interest. And they go, well, actually, I didn't know that. That is quite interesting. So there was a challenge there, but I didn't think it was necessarily insurmountable. And John and I and Jamie West and Chris Smythe, who have been absolutely invaluable in making this book happen, making it what it is, really have tried to concoct something which brings the science of stopping to smokers in a way that's positive, that's engaging, and that's interesting. So one of the things I wanted it to do was to be a good read. Even if you're not a smoker, you could read it and think, oh, that's quite interesting, that's quite interesting. And also to give you some insights into human psychology and what makes us do the things we do. Now, the reality is, in terms of the science, that literally billions of pounds, dollars, euros, every single currency you can think of has been spent on research directed precisely at how to give smokers the best possible chance of stopping when they try. And unfortunately, there's a bit of an inverse relationship between the probability of success, the probability of someone trying one of these methods and the effectiveness of these methods. So one of the things we want to try to do is to change that picture. So that's what the goal is, and to try to do it in a way that's engaging and interesting. There's two parts to the book. The first part is all about nicotine addiction, and it's really interesting to me to hear Jess talking about that being inspirational or of value, because I think that's right. I don't have evidence for it. This is my opinion. But I think that if you do, come in, no, do. I don't know. This department of PhD continuing. Okay, right. I do think that if you have an understanding of what it is that's the problem, that's what's going wrong, it can help to find ways of dealing with it. But there's a very specific way in which understanding the nature of the problem can help. And that is when it comes to choosing what ingredients you're going to put into your formula for change and how you use them. So, for example, I won't bang on about this, but one of the things in terms of the medication options or medicine options that's available is nicotine replacement therapy. Now, if you misunderstand the role of nicotine in smoking, you have a sort of the layperson's understanding of how nicotine works, you're not going to want to use nicotine replacement therapy, and even if you do, you're not going to use it properly, because you're going to think, well, nicotine replacement therapy, hang on a minute, that's the thing I'm addicted to. So why would I try and get off an addiction by taking the drug I'm addicted to? Doesn't make any sense. Well, the way that nicotine works isn't like that, and so it does make sense. And there again, even if you're using nicotine replacement therapy, let's say you decided you're going to use a nicotine patch, you might want to stick at that and be concerned about, someone might suggest to you, your stop smoking advisor might suggest to you, actually, you know what, I think you should use a patch plus one of the fast-acting products, like the gum or the lozenge or something like that. You think, well, I don't know about that, because surely the patch is giving me the nicotine I need. Surely there's a problem I'm going to overdose if I use one of these other products. That's not how it works. So having an understanding about what's going on, how nicotine addiction works and so on, can help you both to choose the right ingredient, but also to use it properly. And in the second part, those of you who've read the book will be aware, it lists 29 ingredients. It started at, I think when Jane first saw it, it's probably 30-something or 40-something. We got it down to 29. I wish it was a round number, like I wish it was 25 or 30, but it isn't. And that's one of the laws of nature, is that, funnily enough, you know, a really great acronym doesn't necessarily make a good theory. You know, that's how it works, and things don't always come in round numbers. So anyway, it's 29, which I think is a prime number. So at least it's got that. Anyway, 29 ingredients, and what I've done is to give each one a star rating, sort of like a witch guide to evidence-based treatment. 3 stars if it's got good, solid evidence from multiple randomized controlled trials, or sort of good real-world evidence. 2 stars if I think the evidence is quite good. For example, it shows that it helps with craving, or you've got, as in the case of electronic cigarettes, you've got some fairly solid evidence from randomized trials, but the products are very variable, so making a generalization might be a bit tricky. Or 1 star if there's some evidence for it, or the evidence is basically coming from the underpinning theory. So that's how it works. And these are the 29 ingredients. I won't go through them all, obviously, but they cover a whole range of things, from your strategy through to any medicine options or medication options that you might use, through to, and it features very heavily in the book, in-person support, because from the Stop Smoking Services, because they're the people who, when they do their job well, which most do their job incredibly well, they can give you a terrific chance of success. All the way through to some of the tips that we give to smokers, but actually don't have such a strong evidence base, or a limited evidence base, like eating healthy snacks, going to bed early, the sort of things that smokers tell us are helping them, but we don't have randomized controlled trial evidence to support them. And even things like smartphone apps. There's about 400 smartphone apps available you can get from iTunes or Android to help you stop smoking. I was at a conference last week in Seattle in which we were presented with the results of the very first randomized controlled trial of any smartphone app. It was a very small one which produced somewhat inconclusive results. So smartphone apps, a lot of potential, a lot of promise, but so they get a star, but they don't get 3 stars. And of course we have the quick line, telephone support. The evidence for telephone support as a form of behaviour support for smoking cessation is cast iron. It is rock solid. There's probably about 20 randomised controlled trials, some of them very large, and you compare them with a comparison condition. It does work. And we have telephone support available in this country and in some other countries. So there's a whole range of things. I cover e-cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, obviously very, very topical at the moment, and I must say I don't think I've ever in any period in my life done so many media interviews on stuff in a short space of time because of the electronic cigarette phenomenon. What's really interesting about electronic cigarettes, which we've never seen before for any stop smoking aid, is the enthusiasm of the people who are using them. You know, we never got people sort of beating a path to our door for nicotine gum or nicotine patches, strangely. But you have vaping societies. You have a whole sort of groups of people who feel very strongly. I have to say, you know, I have some discussions with our medicines regulators about issues to do with e-cigarettes and so on, and they're very aware of this phenomenon that's out there, which is sort of a group of people who would be very, very upset if one were to take away something that they see as being a life-saving thing that they're doing. However, having said that, you know, science takes a long time to catch up very often, and the evidence is only just beginning to accumulate. So we shall watch this space, and we may well be changing those star ratings as we go along. I don't want to use up all the time because we'll also need time for discussion and questions, and then we've got to get on with the business of the day. Anyway, I've just got a few more slides. Is that right? Talking about the style of the book, I wanted it to be very personal. It's written in the first person.